I just dropped a few licensing reminders that I was asked to share. So they're in the comments, they're in the chat, so you can check those out. I'll just let you read them. We won't talk about them unless someone has questions. I'm going to work diligently to watch the waiting room to allow people to join in as well. Some of you here were aware I have invited some additional people that kind of follow my consulting pathway and so forth to join us. So you're going to see some names up here that we haven't seen before. So maybe we'll take a little tiny break here in a few minutes for some introductions. I think that will be fun. Loving to share and bring new ideas to our Directors Network meeting. So welcome Yoda, Tevya, and Tanya. New names we haven't seen there before. So Stephanie, would you like to take it away with some local monies that are available?
Yeah, sure. A couple of updates on some funding pieces. One is ones that you guys already know about with the CDA. Those we've reapplied and we will receive those funds for next year. So we'll still have our Colorado Shines Brighter for 13 counties and then the Mesa County specific. Those will kind of be peppered through the year, as well as early childhood college classes. We did reapply for those funds and we'll have enough to support about 40 college classes that people could submit that we pay up to $500 for. Another piece, this is a new grant and a new opportunity that we received funding to run directors cohorts with CNCC, which is Colorado Northwestern, and we're working with the Workforce Center. And we can run about 20 in director cohorts for the next 3 years. So that's a new one. So if you have people that you feel like might be close and could be good candidates for that, we're in process. We did receive already 64 applications. So that was pretty exciting to have that many people interested, but we'll be reviewing those applications and that's still in process. It's set to start in January. So it's a year-long course. They take 8 weeks each time. It's 2 classes at the same time for 8 weeks. So it's pretty intensive, but there's a good light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel's way shorter.
What is your capacity for that program?
About 20 and 30 per year.
Hey, so I just had another follow-up. So when you guys look at those applications, is this an income qualified scholarship? I mean, how are you paring down 45 down to 25 or 30?
That's kind of to determined. We've had so many more than we expected, and we're working with the Workforce Center team. So there are some grant requirements, but there's attestation to COVID, and then we'll be looking at folks that are also closer to those hours, the director required hours, that kind of thing, but it still hasn't been determined 100% how we're going to go through that. We just received way more than we thought. And then they also have to apply with CNCC. So first of all, we have to have the completed packet. We have, I think, about 30 that have turned in completed packets out of that. So we'll just be working through those and then try to pare that down. And then we're funded for 3 years. It'll be eligible to open up the following next 2 years as well. So hopefully the goal is 60. The other cool thing about this is that the Workforce Center has also agreed to partner. So there's potential for more slots than that with some of their funding. What that looks like, we are still working through the contracts and MOUs. That was literally the other day that it was like, yep, we got it. For next year, though, the councils are receiving funds to be able to support conscious discipline to the greater public. So we'll be hosting that in 2020, as well as pyramid training. So that'll be another piece. One of the pieces that's probably really, really exciting is that the provider with current MOUs, there's an increase to quality funds for this year. So there's a $700 increase across the board. If you do sign on with an MOU for quality, this does not mean you have to go through the quality process and go through to get your rating. It's just using those funds. So QI funds now, and this is going to be sustained, it's not for just this year. Large facilities can receive $4,200, small facilities $3,500, and then homes $2,800. So those have increased. We also have not put a cap on whether that would go towards coaching or dollars. We are letting providers kind of decide instead of trying to do like a 50-50 split, because some providers really want maybe all dollars converted to coaching, where someone else might want the exact flip.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
you can work with your QI navigator on that. It is a little bit more on their part to do, but it's better for you guys so that we can meet your needs. If you have an open MOU right now, it's already in the EC Connects. It's already there. And if you open an MOU, you get the extra money.
I think that's great. I saw that come out in an email, and I like that they're allowing providers materials or coaching and being able to divide that up, because definitely sometimes I'm looking for more coaching, sometimes more supplies based on what's happening. So that's great.
I actually have been talking to Daisy about mine. And one of the things we talked about that's in my QI is I have quite a few employees, even the younger ones, that don't know computers. They don't know how to use Google Drive. They don't know how to use Word, Excel, some of that stuff. She said, because it's in my QI plan to strengthen their skills, I can use my QI funds towards a computer class if we can find one. So I'm thinking, because I don't know about y'all, but I don't need equipment. I don't need tables. I don't need toys. I need more trainings. And so I've been thinking outside the box of what I need for this round. And that was one of the things we came up with, is that computer class. So if that helps anybody kind of think a different thought process to using those funds.
I think that's a great idea, because we use Google Workplace. And I love the idea of thinking outside the classroom, because you think outside the classroom, you can better support the classroom.
Correct.
Oftentimes. So love it.
How to work smarter, not harder. You know,
Yes.
I've gone to a lot of Google Drive, and we have different folders for different areas and different information. And so we're kind of converting from here's my spreadsheet, here's a printout. Here's my Google Drive, you know,
Mhm.
but a lot of people don't know that. And I'm not going to lie, I was one that did not know Google well.
And just a note on that, it is per council. So some councils are saying, no, you have to do 50-50 with those dollars. We decided to let you guys decide. So something else that's coming out that December 1, they are utilizing what is going to be called a milestone award. They're incentive awards for leveling up. Facilities with centers, a level 1 that goes to a level 2 will receive $2,500. And then a level 2 program or center, that is going to a 3 to 5 is $4,000. Places that only service preschool, if you go from a level 1 to a 2, it's $1,500. And then if it's a 2 to a 3 to 5, it's $2,000. You can double up on these. So say that you're a 1 and you go to a 2, and then you also go through quality and do that next, they're combined. So you get those additional funds. It does take up to 5 days once that quality rating is administered. And these funds expire June 2023. So these incentives are for right now, for this coming year, and then the following. So those will expire then. All of this funding minus the incentive dollars does have to be spent by March. So if you receive an E&E grant, and those are quite heftier, we are working with the providers that have received them, and then the state is looking at the ones that are in process, because they received, I think it was $12 million worth of requests. And so they've added $4 more million to the budget to try to honor those requests, but not all are promised, the ones that are in process. There are some other things that are going to be coming out here soon. There's other funds for providers for workforce and retention, as well as for family scholarships and for licensing incentives.
Well, lots of great resources. If you're not from our local area, be looking to your county, your local council for resources, and making sure you're reaching out and finding out what's happening. One of the things I wanted to jump back in on, last month in October, we started talking about staffing. And I think that the challenges that COVID has presented with staffing, with employment, with unemployment, with lack of employment, with some lack of motivation for employment, has really been pressing. And we've seen it take its toll locally here and everywhere. I kind of want to pick up a little bit where we left off. We had lots of great conversation last month about what we're doing, what we're not doing, and had great strategies and tactics. Let's talk about the beginning, which is putting your fishing rod out there. You got a line in the pond looking for applicants. We touched on this last time. So I'm kind of looking for any other additional ideas that anybody has with regards to hiring staff. And let me start off by saying that I'm a firm believer that I always want to have a line out. So if you're a fisherman, you always want to have a line in the water. Now, you may be a serious fisherman and you may be serious about needing to find a great, lead teacher, a great early childhood teacher right now because you're about to lose one in 2 weeks, or you lost one 2 weeks ago and you still can't find one. So you can be really serious about getting a big bite. That may be you. The other extreme is, and I hear this a lot too, where you go, you know what, we're good. I don't really need any staff right now. Like, we're fully staffed and I've got one gal that kind of floats around for us. I encourage you that's not that serious about watching your pole. I'm going to stick with a fishing analogy, to keep your line out there for someone to come around and bite that line, that bait, respond to your ad, because you just never know when someone's going to be moving on, or where you find someone, regardless of where you're at, if you've got someone that responds to an ad that you have out there. I think many of you could relate to finding that one person that you're like, there's no way I'm going to let this lady go, right? I'm going to find some role for you in our organization. You can float, you can sub. Maybe you have someone that's struggling and you put them in with them. Now you're paying double payroll, but for a minute, until you figure out that maybe that person that's struggling needs to float and sub. Maybe they need to take a step back. I'm just such a firm believer of always having a line out, always have your net running out there. A few years ago, like 30, I worked up in Alaska on a fishing tender, and we worked for gill netters. And so gill netters will lay their line out there for salmon to come through and catch them. And they're not rebaiting it. They just leave it out there. So the one thing I would encourage, I jumped on this the other day, and I jumped on YouTube and I looked for Facebook advertising, and I was able to jump on Facebook then and find out, and I found only 3 centers in my local market that had employment ads on Facebook. I've listened to some other centers in our local market saying, how are we going to attract more early childhood teachers? How are we going to attract more teachers in our local market? But I didn't see their ad on Facebook. Do you have your line out in all these different areas? So last month, we talked about Indeed a little bit. We talked about Facebook. We talked about your local workforce center, even Craigslist, ZipRecruiter. There's other ads, and you can try them out. You can sometimes, like we tried out ZipRecruiter the other day for free for 4 days and got 1 applicant. And that same applicant applied locally, like on Indeed. So we just canceled our ZipRecruiter ad. So figuring out which pools, which ponds you're going to cast your line out for ads. So I want to open up for conversation. Does anybody have any ideas, questions, suggestions on what ponds they're fishing in? What resource besides Facebook and Indeed, which seem for me to be the most successful? So does anybody have any comments, questions on that?
Kurt, this is Corinne. I just think that with my center, I've had really good luck with retention. And a lot of it is because, one, I do hire floats that are able to float and train, and the teachers don't get burned out and they can get their appointment dates off that they need. But the other thing is when you have 15 to 20 employees, they always know somebody that's been a good worker that they've known in the past. And I've had great luck getting them in here and getting them the education they need, and kind of growing my own teachers and growing my own staff. It's just one, with the floats, you just have an automatic person that's been in your center and can move into a position, and it's easier to hire somebody else that maybe can be an aid float, and they'll start on their education pathway. You kind of keep growing that workforce that way.
And so you're talking about your floats. So your floats are breaking staff, I assume, as well as covering for classroom for planning time and so forth. So you're budgeting in through payroll your floats. But of course, if someone calls off sick, now your float's able to push into that classroom, right?
Correct. Correct.
without any challenges, because they already know the classroom.
They already know the
Um,
parents, they know the
mhm.
families, they know the center routine, and that's correct. When we have them here, and my two floats are pretty much full time. They're able to give those 10-minute breaks in the morning and
Yep.
get that lesson time once a week for the teachers to do. And then, like you said, when somebody's out, they can step into those age groups. They already kind of know the other teacher, they know the routine, and are comfortable in that position, and the families are comfortable with them in that position.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. They're not a new face, what have you. So I'm a firm believer in hiring more than you think you need, because the minute you think you're like, we're good, 3 people call out, a couple get quarantined.
I've been thinking about this a lot too, and don't think I'm being like prejudiced or weird or anything, but back in the day, they had a program, it was like welfare to work. And
Mhm.
so they had different programs where you could volunteer your time. And also, like, VoteTechs don't have, childcare training. They have dental hygienists, they have, IntelliTech and stuff here locally. So I have a lot of people that are interested in childcare in getting certified, and they don't know where to go. They don't know how to go about it. They don't
Yeah.
know, who do I contact? How do I, I think just the whole childcare program needs, on education, like getting teachers signed up, needs a more streamlined, because they don't know, there is lots of money and lots of grants available, but unless an employer hires them, they don't really have access to that. I wish there was more grant opportunities just open to the public where they could go and train and get certified and then pick their employer. It would, because right now it's such a desert for teachers. They really do have the ball in their court.
Yeah.
That would be great for someone to have all their education to be able to go to these and offer their stuff. But unless we hire them and we get their training and we work, like Green was saying, we build them up to where we need them, or a higher expectation of quality, they should already come with that. We shouldn't be responsible for that in a way. You know what I mean? Like there should be like a VoteTech program or a workforce program that just really starts them.
There is a VoteTech program. It's right here in our county and probably everywhere. It's called WIOA and your local council. So there's WIOA funding for paid internships. So I have a gal, I don't know, she might be 20 years old, working in our Fruta Center. She's doing an internship, a paid internship through our local county. These are WIOA. I think that WIOA is like federal funds to pay her for that. She's not on my payroll, but she works in our classroom. And right now she's just an extra. She's a third in a classroom which requires 2 staff. Okay, so we want to get her through all of her pre-service. So she's kind of like a volunteer for us. Once we get through that and we get her through some more orientation, that we might use her as a float, as a substitute aide. But not only is there a paid internships available, but as Stephanie talked about, there's also CDA opportunities. That's also part of our VoteTech program. So if you have someone come out from our career center, I would consider that pre-VoteTech. They're a student that needs to put in some time in a program, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Once they graduate, then they would be a great candidate for a paid internship through the Workforce Center.
Yeah.
And now they're in your program. They're working at a local childcare facility, which makes them a great candidate for the CDA program.
We can grow these people, and PCF will be working on this, but they're not imprinting in the classroom. So whoever that operator is, we've put up where in the design where it's those, what do you call them? Is it two-way mirror or one-way, whatever? So that
the observation rooms, yeah, and they're really nice.
So, and then there's sections for each room where someone could be observing for that period of time where it was infant and toddler. And then there's an actual specific training room where they can view into the classroom. So that can be counted towards those hours, because when you have people kind of learning on the job, basically is what it is towards quality And that does end up falling on the backs of you guys right now, but that's kind of the idea, is to take that off. That way it can happen there, and then it's outside of the classroom, so it's not impacting, it's not messing with continuity of care, it's not a thumbprint. And then we can have those conversations while they're observing that you can't have when you've got kids crawling on top of you and that kind of stuff, to say,
Yeah.
look at what you see, what are you noticing as far as, so to be able to have those conversations of what quality looks like and point that out and do that in the beginning of these trainings, and then working with us, having like coaches right there with them as they're observing, is kind of the idea. So then they come out of it where they've really seen high quality, and then they can go out into the community and get work and be more prepared.
So if you have somebody going all the way back, that's just off the street, and they want to, like, not just the young teenagers, even, people that are looking for a change of career or just a job period. And they come in, where should we send them then? Should we send them to the workforce center, to you? Okay.
Yeah.
Stephanie.
Yeah,
Job
you can.
period 1,000?
So sometimes what I'll do is I will actually advertise for a paid internship. I'll create an ad on Facebook for a paid internship. Okay. And they'll call me and I'll interview them. And I'll give them the guidelines that the Workforce Center has, which are usually, we can't work more than 29 hours a week. So is that going to work for you? And the Workforce Center has a say in compensation. It's typically minimum wage, or maybe in this based on your experience. But it's a great foot in the door. And that becomes a 3-month, give or take, working interview for them. So I can do all of the interviewing. I've had people say, yeah, I did that internship thing and they just didn't send me good staff. Well, come on. I'm like they're giving you a free staff member, if you will. And I'm going to do the work, like preview them. So I'll send a proposal to the Workforce Center, say, hey, I'm looking for a typically a preschool assistant, and then I'll create an internship for that, and then I'll advertise it on the site. And when I find them, I send them over to the Workforce Center, and they can go through all that, see if they qualify, because there's income, there's as well as a lot of other assessments they do, or qualifying factors. It's not just income, to see if they would qualify, and then they put it together.
With councils, we're charged with resource and referral, as well as a new approach that is coming out as well, of family child care home navigator. We plan to merge those pieces together, but basically that would help anybody that's interested in early childhood at all. We could resource them. Okay, you're interested. We get calls all the time, and we just need a dedicated staff person to this, but to be able to say, okay, what are you interested in, basically? And somebody might say, oh, I want to open a large facility. Then we go down the road of what that looks like, dig into it, and then they're like, yeah, no. I'd rather be a teacher, and then we can resource them. Or, I really want to open a home, but we go down that road and it's maybe they live in an apartment. And so that's not going to work out for that. So it's kind of one of the pieces that's been missing in all of this work, is to have somebody that can really help people navigate what's going to fit them best. Because even in the training stuff, we're going to get people that come down the line and say, I really want to work with kids. And then you guys see this all the time, of then they come in and then they're like, oh, this was not what I thought it was going to be. So if we can do that weeding out, or let that happen on our backs, for lack of a better term, and then that way you guys are accessing folks that, have been in and have seen what it looks like. They're starting to understand, they're understanding quality and that kind of stuff. But that's a piece that's kind of been missing, that we started to work on pre-COVID. And then obviously, all the things happened. But so that's coming here soon, is we will be hiring a new position to be able to do some of that work, to really connect with homes, to make sure that homes are accessing different things that they can access, as well as that kind of resource and referral for parents, for people interested in the field, to be able to utilize and understand all the programs that are available, and then what path. So that's coming. So I love where your mind is thinking. I promise I'm on it. It's close.
The other thing-
I have one more thing. Are you guys going to raise your employee wages to meet the market?
I guess I'd first say no.
Yeah.
I guess I'm fueled by competitive nature. So my aides, my newer staff, my greener staff are going to continue hanging out there at minimum wage. I always believe in paying staff what they're worth. What is the value of each staff member? So whether it's a staff member that's been on for 1 year and has like plateaued, or a staff member that's with me for 6 years that is continuing to excel, really to answer your question is, am I going to compete with Walmart in the other market? Yes, but in a different way. I'm going to make sure I try my best to overvalue the staff that I cannot do without, right? Those key players, I'm going to make sure they know they are a key player with me. But I'm telling you, teachers in general, gosh, in every industry, but teachers in our industry specifically are not only focused on that wage. You just have a different shaped heart. It's shaped differently if you're a teacher. It's like, I don't know, this kid and that kid, and it comes together differently. So I want to compensate them in other ways besides just pay, because I know what Walmart won't do. How do we create a work family? I started using this term more in my emails with prospective applicants. People love the idea of a work family, I think. And then make sure you're doing a working interview. Okay. In your working interview, where people are coming in, applicants, and they're spending 2 and 4 hours in the classroom, working alongside as an extra, like a volunteer for 4 hours with your co-teachers, and you put them in the best teachers you have, it's those teachers' job to weed them out. That working interview is great. And I still know that there's a lot of centers in our local market that don't use a working interview. So you just got to put the work up front. And then, Stephanie talked about this last month about bringing them in, supporting them. And yeah, so you just got to compete in different ways. Like Corrine said, by having a floater, it makes your staff feel supported. By having some benefits, it helps them being appreciated. By being present, by popping into the classrooms. Oh, the other one was, what are you doing on their birthday? And this is like after the hiring, but this is back to Corrine said. She's got people that have been with her for 17 years. She's got great retention. I imagine she's doing something for them on their birthday.
I budget for basically 20 employees for my fiscal year of birthdays, and I budget about $50. Whether it be a gift card, whether it be a puzzle. This year I got these really cool wooden puzzle boxes, and they were a little bit more, but I did the puzzle box and then I stuck a 20 in there that they had to open the puzzle to get the 20. It's been the biggest hit.
That's great.
Last year I just got teacher mugs that said different things, and then they were a little expensive too, but I just put a $10 Starbucks gift card in there. But I do the same across the board. I get the 20 gifts. I have them ready to go, so I'm not missing anybody. It's just really hard. And then we always do a staff meeting. I always buy the dinner. And that's kind of the dinner for anybody's birthday in that month. I used to try to do lunch every single birthday. You just can't with 20 employees. You're going to miss somebody. And more than anything, you don't want to hurt feelings. But yeah, I just budget up front. This is how much I'm going to spend on birthdays. I get it all done so nobody's going to get missed. And it's there in my office. You can see my, oh, here, I'll turn them on. These are the coolest things that I got this year. I got these little cute puzzle boxes, couple different styles. And then I put happy birthday with the directions on the bottom of how they have to open them to get their gift out of it. And the teachers have loved these more than anything I've did in the last few years. They love trying to fight to get, and they all know there's only 20 in there because we've already had a whole lot of birthdays, but they don't care because it's their box this time and they're going to get that $20 out of there. So, yeah, I think it's important, you know. I try to do little things when I do have that extra money. I might bring in the McDonald's 10 for 10. You get 10 English muffins and 10 hash browns or 5 English muffins, whatever. I try to do little things like that. Sometimes I'll pick up bagels and cream cheese and bring them in. But I think the biggest thing is every morning I try to go to every classroom and just say, good morning. How did your day go? Because then I get a feel for, is that teacher really going to need to maybe say, hey, do you need to go home? I can have the float step in. Because just saying good morning to your teachers, you get that feel first thing in the morning, how they're doing. And I think that's just such an important piece. Like you said, Kurt, it's a family. You know, I have concern for you. I want to make sure you're feeling okay and you're up for the day. And if you're not, what can I do to support you? So that's kind of some of the ideas I do.
I got to share my screen because I saw these pens in a gift shop and I thought, oh my word, my teachers deal with so much. This would be a funny pen to give them, right? And I thought, and we have a little logo mug that we made, Twisted Teachers. And one of my staff, I did a contest like, hey, if you could give me something fun to put on the back, I'm going to give you a couple of mugs. So one of my teachers came up with this saying, can you read it? I can't pay enough money for this. Just for fun. And so like this will go into our birthday thing. And I love the birthday fund. And we also, on one of our onboarding, we put a extra little tab in there. We're all Google. So they have all the links to what they need to sign up. And then the next page is my favorite things. And so it says like, if you got a $10 gift card, where would you like to receive it from, right? Some people like Starbucks, some people do not. I don't want a Starbucks gift card because their coffee is too bitter for me, right? But I might like one from Posh or one from this place or that place, and the favorite color and the favorite candies. And so we've begun developing that so that we can actually customize their birthday thank yous. Here you go. And it's got Skittles and, you know, yellow M&Ms or whatever it is that they like. Yellow M&Ms. Is that a thing?
Yes. People in this field are relationship based, for sure. Or have funny shaped hearts, however you want to put it, 100%. And I would like to say though, there are some grants coming available for providers to be able to try to beef up what you do for your staff, whether it goes towards benefits or being able to increase wages, because we're right. I mean, the money has something to do with it. This is a lot of work. It is one of the hardest jobs in the world. You're dealing with people. So the work of dealing with people is always messy. It's emotional. It's complicated. You're taking care of people's most prized possessions, and you're having to deal with like 100 cooks in the kitchen of all these different regulations and different things that are telling you all sorts of things. And so it's a very rewarding field, but very complicated, very confusing, and very unique. And then everything is 100% tailored. I mean, like you can graduate from college with an early childhood degree and you're still not qualified for all these other things, right? You're a doctor. And this is like the only field that you're never done. So in that, I mean, there are a lot of things that I think we're trying to implement at different levels. Having this training facility to be able to be, you know, take that learning on the job piece off of you guys, being able to provide these scholarships so that people can access it. And then hopefully these funds will come soon to try to help providers be able to increase salaries or provide benefits and things like that, as well as these family scholarships that'll ease some of this. However, it is on my radar of like, how do we sustain that? Because it is a big issue. It's just not balanced, right? And this is a national issue. This is not just Mesa County, and it's not just Colorado. The professional development requirements are way up here, and the salary doesn't match, right? This is like the only job that you can have. You can have all these different degrees and different trainings, but the salary doesn't go with it, right? So that's a national issue. National issues take a really long time to fix. So here we're trying to be a couple steps ahead and try to figure out things. I haven't been able to tackle the salary one yet, but hopefully these other pieces are easing budgets in other areas where when I first came on board, listening to facilities say, oh, well, I just end up paying for their college classes. So those are things that, yeah, I'm trying to bite big pieces off and chew them down, but it's taking some time because this is a massive issue for the industry. But I appreciate you guys sharing the things that you're struggling with, letting me hear them. That way I can take them up the ladders and see what else can we do? Who else can work on this, or who's doing this or solving this in some other area that has figured it out? Yeah, those are definitely pieces that are difficult. And I love hearing the way that you are engaging staff. One thing that I think, and Kareen, I'm sure some of you do this, but a lot of, like, when I had staff in childhood facilities, sometimes it was just listening, like, to what they thought was going on and asking their opinions, and having them have more and more ownership and gain that ownership. And then that again created that kind of family that you're talking about, of that work family.
To answer Jen's question directly, the way that you can compete with Walmart, the way you compete for your employees is by being profitable, because we have this funny shaped heart. I think that's so accurate. Like you said, Steph, people are relationship based in our industry, but because we have that funny shaped heart, look like an R, as a business owner, you've got to focus on being profitable, because then you can give those raises. You can recognize those core teachers in your program that you want to build your other classrooms around, right? And so managing your center is so important. And that's my passion. That's where I spend a lot of my time, is managing my center and making sure our classrooms are full. And it was, I want to look it up, but it was like supporting staff and letting them know they're appreciated. And I was like, ow. I'm like, you're so right. Because I know that's one of my weaknesses. It has been for years. And so, but I'm like, yeah, if you gave me a 10 there, I'd be like, I'd throw this whole thing out. So how do we support our staff and recognize and share with them how appreciated they are? This is what you have to do with funny shaped heart people. I want to jump all the way back to a previous conversation we had about the internships. Whether you advertise for a paid internship or you just are advertising for an aide, let's say you find someone, you're like, man, you're on the fence with them. You're going, maybe, but I'm not ready to put you on my payroll. I'm not ready to put you on my payroll. That's a great, but I'd like to hang out with you. Like, I'd like to see what you can do in a classroom. That's a great person to send to Stephanie or whoever your resource person is for a paid internship. And then what you can do is see if they qualify, see if they follow through, right? Because if you have reservations, maybe them following through with that next step helps take away some of those reservations. And then you bring them in. Let's say they qualify for a paid internship in your program. And then you explain to them, listen, we're going to do a 6-week not a probation, but a 6-week trial period. And you meet with them at Friday or the Monday of every week. I'd rather meet with people on Monday or Tuesday of every week. And you just say how it's going. You talk to their co-teachers, see how they're working, and maybe they're struggling. I may or may not have someone like this, exactly like this, maybe not in my program right now. And we may be doing weekly or bi-weekly meetings because this person needs more coaching. And so again, if it's not a home run, someone that came in, but you want to give them a shot, see if they'll qualify for an internship, because after 4 weeks or 6 weeks, if you feel like this has no possibility in ending in a higher opportunity, you can just cut your strings and be done. You don't have to follow these through all the way to the end if it's not benefiting everybody. There's 3 outcomes. They turn into a rock star, even a mini rock star, and you hire them. Number 2, you realize halfway through this is not going to be someone that you can afford to hire and bring on, and that happens. But number 3, I think I sometimes love this one the most, is that this is someone that you might recognize because of ability or disability, that they're not going to be able to jump onto your payroll and run as a lead or even as an assistant. They're just a great support. That they could potentially be a good supportive cast member, but just your influence on their life, just you giving them that career work experience, because there's a lot of people that have been through challenging times, challenging families, challenging abilities or disabilities they've got to work through, that they get out of high school at 17 or 18, they haven't held a job, that you give them an opportunity and you're able to love on them and mentor them for like a few months. And if that's all you give them and they are able to give back to your classroom, yeah, that's a heart toucher right there. We've had a few of those over the years.
So, a lot of directors will end up having to do, the finance stuff. Well, could you flip that and use an intern that's going through business or something like that can free up maybe that staff person that's having to do that? Is another thing of like, what are things that are taking on and morphing into things for some of your teachers or staff that maybe could be done by one of these interns or something like that? Because I know that's something you've utilized too, but we've had in previous pilot programs, same thing of, we had a mom come in, was applying to take her kids to this facility, and then it just came out in conversation of that, oh, she was actually going to look for work, and she was really great at business, and then she also had some nursing background. So she ended up getting an internship, started learning all the systems and took on some business pieces, but then was able to do some of the nursing stuff together. So in conversations with parents, sometimes it can come out, but it was, oh, let's get her signed up at the workforce center for an internship. Try this for 3 months after you've trained on core or whatever system you use. And she was able to, because there's other strengths that you have at your facilities as well.
Here real quickly, just being a small center, probably, I would say over a dozen years, the greatest source of staff has come from our parent pool. So parents that have shown an inclination to teaching and wanting to work with children, that we've encouraged to get classes that have led right into getting hired on as staff here. So that's been a great source for us. For us, it's worked well. Being in Delta County, we had the VoteTech with early childhood classes that was greatly affordable at the time. It no longer is there, which is very sad for Delta County. But from having the conversation with parents, seeing that they had a great interest, we would just say, hey, check out getting some classes. There's scholarship money available. You can do it. We're willing to help. You need to do observations. You can come do observations here. And just doing everything we can to be an encouragement and a help along the way. And even though we have the option, if you're hired on, that the board has decided will help you with some of the college costs, most of our staff haven't even ever had to take advantage of that. Right. They've gotten usually most of their money through scholarships to go and get the classes done and come back. So.
Yeah, because a lot of counties have local scholarships, but then there's also state scholarships as well here in Colorado. So and I think
resources.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources, but I think as HR, as directors and owners of programs, we need to make sure that we've got our pulse on those resources. And that's what's so great with Miss Stephanie Bivens and others, is that if you have questions about, hey, what resources do I have available locally in my state? And then you just have to organize those. Just organize them. You could put it in a little Google sheet and just share it. You could put a little link on your website or on your Facebook page. You could pin it to the top. You could just send them an email. There are more resources today than there's ever have been.
I agree.
Ever. Yeah. There was a company out of Texas, and they had a CDA course, and on like Black Friday, they had a sale for $75, and I could purchase a CDA course. So I get like 6 of them every October, November, and then I'd assign them to students throughout the year. I thought that was the greatest thing. Well, now you don't have to do any of that. They just have to
No.
apply for scholarships, which is great. Respect of everybody's time. If you're working in the center, kids are waking up. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you being here today. Great conversation, great resources. So thanks, everyone. And as always, have a marvelous day. See ya.